Hi there, and welcome to this first session of revisiting the virtual rugby show from June. This was an absolute belter. Craig Doyle holding it together for the relentless banter of Ben Kay, Lawrence Dallaglio and Austin Healey. Not to be missed, really enjoy it. And if you can give to Dallaglio Rugby Works, then the link is in the post below. Have fun.
Thanks, Ed. Did you say this is free? I'm out. No, joking aside, we know how good this charity is. We've seen Lawrence build it over the years. So please do get involved. It's incredible work he does. So it is much needed funds, particularly during this time. And you know, something, the benefits to so many people are huge as well. But look, let's celebrate rugby tonight, shall we? Because we've missed it. It's been so long. March the 8th, Bristol Bears beating Harlequins. Round 13 of the Premiership was the last time that we were all together as BT Sport, as rugby fans watching at home, as all those fans that were in Ashton Gate that day. And we waited for a long time for it to come back. And look, it's been a tough time. A lot of lives have been lost and a lot of people lost jobs and got into very serious situations. So it's a slightly muted celebration, but it's a celebration anyway, that at least we get a sport we love back and we get a bit of time out over the weekends to just forget about our worries and have a good time again. So it's really, really good news. And to celebrate that, we're going to welcome back our man, Lawrence Dallaglio, alongside him, a man who's won, well, many Premiership titles, European titles and a World Cup, Ben Kay, and someone who looks a bit like Jack Nicholson and Austin Healey kind of molded together, but I'm guessing it's Austin. Jack is back. Oz, interesting look. How are you?
I'm good, mate. Just woken up. It's been a very busy time, obviously, as you can see. Just about to go out on my haircut. But no, it's good fun. Great to see everyone. Great to be involved. I've been involved with Lawrence's charity for a long time in terms of cycling. And the slam, which we would have actually been on now had it not been for COVID. But yeah, like you said, the last game we were involved in was down at Bristol. And it doesn't seem that long ago. And like you said, I think it will all be coming back relatively soon.
I loved you in The Shining. Brilliant. Benny, how have you been?
Johnny.
It's been...
Well,
Here's Johnny.
all right. You look like you've got younger. Your hair is very black, Craig. Very black. It's difficult to dye your hair if you're not professional and not make it look like someone's painted it, isn't it? It does look fantastic, though. I gotta say.
Benny, very soon you can run your fingers.
Benny, I start by saying a massive congratulations to you as a Liverpool fan. Obviously, you're a bit. I mean, I know it's a rugby show, and we don't want to talk about football really, but with the toffee Evertonian in Austin next to you, I think it'd be remiss of us not just to have a couple of lines on your celebrations last night.
I wasn't going to mention it, to be honest. I wasn't going to mention it at all. I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, no, look, it was a shame we didn't manage to do it at Goodison. And you know, interesting watching it at Goodison. Looked as many fans as there usually are in there. Listen, Liverpool have a bad rep for being a bit arrogant when they win things. So good, yeah.
Did you see Sir Kenny on BT Sport last night, and his phone just kept ringing and the texts were coming in? It was a brilliant moment. It was great to see it.
Yeah,
I think we should get Austin's take on it. Austin being such a big Liverpool fan.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's strange, Ben, and actually you're quite unique because you're a Liverpool fan that's from Liverpool. Normally you're Swedish or from Norway. So it's great to actually have one supporter from the city.
It's not even giving you that. Should we move on to rugby?
The right city, anyway. Yeah, go on.
Let's move on to rugby, shall we? Okay, so we have some dates, guys. August the 14th, Friday the 14th, 15th, and 16th. That looks like when we're going to have Premiership rugby back. Look, it's close, but we're still a bit nervy, aren't we, Lawrence? Because we got to look at our rates and how COVID is spreading. We need people to stay away from Bournemouth for our rugby to come back. It's a nervy time, but exciting all the same.
Yeah, it is. I think the next couple of weeks are going to be really interesting in terms of the the reaction to the easing of lockdown restrictions. I don't know about you, but it does feel different, certainly here in London, from what it has been over the last 12 weeks or so. There's a lot more people out on the streets. There's a lot more activity. Football's back, and as you say, we've got a roadmap now to get rugby back on our screens. I'm never one to watch a lot of New Zealand rugby, but I tuned in over the last couple of weekends to some of their domestic Super Rugby, and to see them, played in full stadiums, new law interpretations, and I was pretty jealous, actually, pretty envious of what they've got going on over there, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we can move forward over the next couple of weeks, because we enjoy what we do. Everyone enjoys watching live rugby, and it's just be great to have it back on our TV screens. And Ben and I know that Ben's involved with Leicester, me to a certain extent with Wasps as well. It's been a tough road. There's been some really difficult times, some big decisions made across the board, but hopefully everyone is now starting to pull together. I know it doesn't always seem like that when you read the papers, but rugby is really trying to pull together to make sure that we can be back with a bang in mid-August.
Austin, are you confident it's going to happen?
I don't know, Craig. It's not up to me. I wish it was, but it's not up to me. I think I'm looking forward to the most. I think I've missed the most is when I'm commentating on Wasps games with Lawrence, and he's pretending that he's unbiased, and he's punching the table when Wasps score. Go on, lads! Go on, lads! Scrum down our ball, Wasp ball. That's the bit I've missed the most, I think. And then, obviously, Ben's had a very busy time at Leicester, taking them back to the dark ages since he's been the director there. So, it's time for all the clubs to move on. And I'm looking forward to it all starting again. And in terms of social distancing, I haven't found it that difficult. I've been doing it for about 45 years now. And
no, can I stop you? Can I stop you there? You haven't been doing it. People have been doing it to you. It's same but different.
It just saves time.
Yeah, you say that, but it's still 2 meters. It's still 2 meters, and will be. Even when
that's only eased. When we're in a car with you, Oz. 10 meters when we're outside of a car.
That's the limo. That's the limo, son.
Obviously, Ben, you're on the board at Leicester. Lawrence, you're involved with Wasps. Let's talk through some of the practicalities of it. There are 9 rounds to finish in essentially 7 weeks. That's the window, Benny. What are they going to do? They're going to drop some games, go midweek games? How's it likely to play out?
Listen, I think Lawrence's point was a really good one in that for so long, when things like this happen, it's very difficult because there are so many what ifs. What do we do if? And eventually we got to a stage where necessity almost took over. And we're saying, right, we are starting on this date. We're going to head towards that date. And every hurdle that comes up, we'll try and find a way around, rather than having the perfect plan from the start, which no one could possibly have because no one's been in this situation before. So we've got a route to get the game started. There's obviously an opportunity to play midweek games to get all the fixtures completed. But we don't know until the players get back into full contact and get back into phase 2 of their training schedules. We don't know whether that's going to be possible because, are they going to play some sort of midweek teams, almost like your dirt trackers side with the Lions that aren't necessarily your first team just to get these fixtures played? Or are they going to have to, if you get an injury in one position and then another injury in that position, suddenly the bare bones means that the clubs are going to be struggling to put a team out. So we don't want to be cancelling games at the last minute because a club can't get a team out. So I think the directors of rugby are probably going to have a big say in this and whether it's going to be possible to put meaningful teams out to play fixtures and give them the quality that they deserve and that the public deserve to watch.
Well, Lawrence, I guess squad size dictates whether you can put out essentially what Benny's saying, a second team or not. And for some clubs, their first team looks, looks like a bit like the second team. For others, the second team is very much a second team because squad size aren't the same. It's not the same kind of level of riches across the 12 clubs, is it?
Yeah, I think what everyone wants to do is maintain the integrity of the competition. As you say, there's 7 weeks, and they've got 11 fixtures left to play, something like that. Is that right? And
12.
So 12 fixtures. So I guess that the challenge will be, as Ben said, do the clubs play midweek games? In which case they're going to have to rotate their squad, probably use a lot more academy players than they would of normally used, or which hasn't been ruled out, by the way. Could they maybe come to a situation where they all agree to drop 4 rounds, and then it's a bit easier to fit in. And I think whatever decision they do arrive at, it will be about maintaining the integrity of the competition, and ensuring that we get to a satisfactory conclusion. And look, no one quite knows what's going to happen. Other than international players, very few rugby players in England and the British Isles are used to playing rugby at this time of year. We were already seeing in football last night, 4 or 5 drinks breaks that have been decided that they're going to happen throughout the match. The grounds are a lot harder given the roasting temperatures we've had across the country. So that puts a little bit more pressure on the joints and perhaps increases the injury risk, particularly for players who haven't had necessarily that much training coming into it. So I think it's going to have to be a little bit of wait and see. But as I said, player welfare has to be at the forefront of the decisions in terms of the number of games. And for me, the integrity of the competition and the Premiership itself is really important too.
Actually, I think it would be 11 weekends, but I'm counting in there that they might play a semi-final and a final. Oz, we think they do want to play a final, though. They want a big day out.
Yeah, you'd hope so, wouldn't you? Something that we can climax towards at the end of the season. And I agree with the guys. It's almost like when you've got the builders in and they're doing some renovation work, and you never know if there's a fixed date when you can get them out unless you set that date, and eventually you kick them out, and it might not all be perfect, but at least you've got a date. And I think that's all credit to Premiership Rugby for setting that date, and it's good that we can look forward to that. And I disagree that we want to change things too much. I watch the football, and there's a lot of things that don't make sense in it that are done for COVID, but the reality is there's just no real logic. It's almost like you're supposed to do it. And I hope rugby's got the sense to retain as much of the game as we saw before, not let it be too much damaged by what effectively is, you just can't social distance in rugby. We all know that. Rugby is a dangerous enough game as it is. So let's get back, let's get playing, let's hopefully get people in the stadiums. So I think, with the relaxing of distancing rules, I think that there's an opportunity there for clubs to bring some crowds in. And they've all been planning towards this. So what's the point in planning if you're not going to implement it?
Yeah, well, Ben and Lawrence, you can give us a bit of an insight into this, because Welford Road and the Rico are 20,000 plus stadiums. So you could fit a decent enough crowd in, even with a bit of distancing. So Benny, let's start with you. What are the plans? Do they have a plan for that at Welford Road?
Yeah, they're putting through all sorts of different scenarios, and obviously the finance director's involved in that as well, in terms of trying to plan for the future, because let's be honest, getting people back isn't just they're not rushing to do it just because for the great of the game. These clubs are under pressure and they need to commercially start making some of the money they're expecting to make back. So all those different scenarios are being run through with planners that are used to dealing with this. So, like you said, Leicester is 24,000. There is that the old Crumby stand, which obviously has wooden benching, which is a little bit more difficult to keep people separate. The terracing is more difficult to keep people separate. But certainly in the new stands, the club are fairly confident that they can at least get 8,000 people in there with one-way systems and make sure that they've got enough distance between them when they're sitting watching the game to actively socially distance. And so somewhere north of that would be what Leicester are looking to do. And if we can do that safely and we get the sign off, then that would be fantastic for those fans that can get back into the stadium as well.
And not just about the fans, Lawrence. You got to make some money here. I mean, the clubs are in dire financial situations, so any gate receipts would be more than welcome, wouldn't they?
Yeah, and I think it's a similar story at Wasps as well. A 32,000-seater stadium, there's no reason why you couldn't have at least sort of 10 to 12,000 people in there safely. Obviously, to a certain degree, fans are going to have to decide whether they want to come to a stadium and that kind of stadium environment, and if they did so, they would, to a certain degree, come at their own risk. You have to accept that. It's going to be fascinating to see what the demand for coming to, say, a Leicester or a Wasps or any club really, because if I'm a fan of rugby, I want to come back to my stadium and I want to watch my team. And I suppose the clubs have got to find a fair and equitable way of making the access to the stadium and the demand for the tickets, a sort of fair and equitable way of how they get distributed. Because I've got this sneaky suspicion that there's that the demand for the tickets might spike because people have had no rugby to watch for the last 4 months.
Well, maybe the rule should be if you don't go to the beach before the start of the season, you're allowed to buy a ticket. Maybe that'll keep people away from Bournemouth, huh? There you go.
That's the mockery of it all, isn't it? The mockery of it all is that there's people queuing outside of shops. There's people congregating in various different ways for various different reasons, good and bad. And then you see people on the beach and you think, look, if people want to come, if people are prepared to take the opportunity to go to a sports match, they should be allowed to. In the time off, I've actually sat on a board in the States. It's called the International Well Building Institute, and it's been looking at various ways for the hospitality sector to get back as quickly and as safely as possible. And essentially, it comes down to two things: the club, the Leicester Tigers, the Wasps of this world, doing everything they possibly can. And then the members of the public, the supporters, equally doing everything they possibly can, but also having the confidence that the partner that they're associated with is doing the same. Bring everyone back together and get on with it. And I think we're at that point.
It's going to be interesting, isn't it? I mean, in Ireland at the moment where I am, we're in lockdown. On Monday, the pubs open again. We'll be just playing locked all over again. And I think when that happens, it's going to be hard to go back. How do you say don't go to a rugby match if you're allowed to go to a pub? Look, this is the first big chat.
How are you going to find your way home on Monday night?
I'm not coming home. Been here for 4 months.
I mean, to be fair, for Craig, being locked in a pub in Ireland is nothing unusual. To be honest with you, it's getting out the pubs again. That's the real challenge.
I've never tried to get out. I wouldn't know. So look, as part of the virtual rugby show, all of you watching at home can get involved, send in questions, and a lot of questions coming in for you guys now. I should just say, just to give you an idea how the season's going to look, as I said, August 15th, 16th. I don't know if there's going to be a Friday night game. Let's call it 14th, 15th, 16th. That'll get starting again. We don't know how many rounds. Could be as little as 7. They could play all of them. And then we will have a final, of course. Europe will also take place September, the weekends of September 19th, 20th for the quarterfinals, 26th, 27th for the semis. And then the final will be played in France on October the 17th. So a lot of rugby to come. And I guess the speculation at the moment, guys, is that there might be a bit of a break then for a bit of an international window, whatever that looks like, or whoever's in town to play those games. But we might get going in the Premiership again as early as kind of mid-November. So it'll be a short season break and straight at it again. Is that your read of things, Benny?
Yeah, obviously, I think the EPCR have said that they're going to start next season, December the 14th, 15th, something around there. So that would look like the date that they're looking to start, which would fall straight after supposedly some internationals. So we need an update on the Lions. But I think before any of this happens, World Rugby need to get what they're trying to do with the global calendar sorted with the French and the English clubs, and because the contracts are held by the French and the English. So for all this planning in terms of internationals, those internationals would fall out of the international windows. So they need permission from the contract holders in the clubs to be able to do that. So I still don't think we 100% know how it's going to pan out. There's talk of it impacting the Lions players if the Lions goes ahead at the end of the season by not having enough rest during the season. Having said that, the players have had the longest off-season they've ever had at the end of a shorter season this year. So we don't know how that's going to impact everyone. So there's still, for all us saying we've got a start date, we know when the finals are going to be, there's still a lot of planning for the next 3 or 4 years of rugby and what it's going to look like before we can answer that properly, Craig.
A lot of people asking it, actually, Lawrence, and this is from Sean Nash. We kind of hit on it there. Can you see next season starting within weeks of this one ending, and how will that affect player welfare? I guess what Sean's talking about is the rest period between the two seasons. And will they need a shorter one? Will a shorter one be okay considering how long they've been out?
Well, I think there's still a long way to go in terms of the negotiations that are taking place, and I'm fascinated to hear from Bill Sweeney tomorrow. He's on at 11 o'clock on the virtual rugby show, because he's obviously an important player in these negotiations. He has a seat at the table of World Rugby, and they've been meeting on a regular basis. And really what they're trying to work out is, can they align the two seasons between the Northern and Southern Hemisphere? And the latest I heard was that they haven't ruled out the possibility of next season starting in March and playing back to back all the way through. And then instead of having 3 international windows, they're trying to reduce that down to 2. So there would be the autumn internationals and the Six Nations, as opposed to the summer tours. And obviously Bill will be able to give us an update on where those conversations are at. The various stakeholders are clearly not in agreement. EPCR, who run the European Cup, they want to get going a lot earlier. Clearly the French clubs have got this top 14 competition where they insist on playing each other home and away, and then you add Europe onto that, and then that's virtually playing rugby all year round. You've got the English clubs who've got a slightly different view. So I'm not quite sure there's harmony yet that exists across the board. And then of course the broadcasters have got an important say, and we're all employed by BT Sports. And I'm pretty sure that if there was a move towards summer rugby, if I was at BT Sport, I wouldn't particularly want to see rugby played in the month of August, because nothing happens in Europe across August. And if you think you can get people to watch rugby in that month, personally, I think you're mad. I think that if they do want to have a global season, it's going to have to start at a certain time. There's going to have to be a mid-season break and I reckon in about August, because if you've ever been to Italy or France, nothing happens in those months. So I don't think you could realistically want to play rugby during that time. And then I think the season would kick off again maybe in September. So it's a long, long way to go in terms of alignment. But hopefully Bill will give us a little bit of an update tomorrow at 11 o'clock.
Austin, I know you and I...
There speaks a man, Craig, that has got a holiday home in Portugal and doesn't want to miss the month of August at his holiday house. And the Algarve.
Well, you tell me who's going to watch rugby in August. I'm telling you now.
I'm not. I'm going to be on holiday.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know why they're thinking about playing summer rugby throughout August, because BT don't want it. We don't want it. Not that we matter. And there's a lot of people who are watching rugby who won't want it either.
But Craig, the only thing I'd say, Craig, is that for all COVID-19 being one of the worst things that's hit the world for since the war, perhaps, but for all that, there are positives for rugby, that they've been forced to look at themselves. Now, while everyone was just about surviving, no one was prepared to give any ground. No one was prepared to get around the table and talk things out. And I know that the way that rugby went professional meant that we were in a bit of a mess. The fact that some unions owned the contracts to the best players and some didn't, like England and France. But the commercial reality of everyone needing each other's support means I think there's a chance to actually get this right. And it won't be what's best for everyone. I think there'll be a middle ground, a negotiated ground in the middle. But certainly, in my mind, professional rugby wasn't sustainable in its old form, and this has just pushed everyone to the table a little bit quicker. And hopefully we can get a solution that might hurt for a bit for the next few years. And certainly, it's been very public that the players might suffer on that in terms of their expectations. But I think we can get rugby into a place where it is sustainable, and as a result, will grow commercially, and eventually the players will benefit from that again.
I think you've all answered Nick Rowe's question, which was, are we heading for a global season? Can I just pick up on the thought, though, of summer rugby and a more consistent kind of weather for the rugby season? And it takes away one of those great characteristics of our game, Lawrence, that sometimes you got teams, the old Leicester sides, they like to keep it up tight, up the pack. They like big, wet, muddy days and maul the ball up the pitch. You get teams like the Bristol Bears now that want to attack from anywhere. And the different seasons kind of allow different clubs have advantages at different periods of the season and different weather conditions, and it's one of the lovely kind of quirks of the sport. It'd be a shame, would it not, to take that away from it?
Yeah, possibly, but there's always pros and cons of both things. We all had the opportunity to tour overseas, and you go to the hard grounds of South Africa, and you've got to deal with just a completely different playing environment, the high altitude, different temperatures. You go to New Zealand, even a lot more evening kickoffs. You got maybe a lot more dew on the ground. So yeah, all these are obvious challenges, but. I think that this word alignment seems to be bandied around quite a lot. What we're seeing at the moment as well is a shift in the game. I don't know if any of the guys caught any of the Super Rugby over in New Zealand, but there was obviously the whistle was blown quite a lot. There was a lot of penalties given away as players are coming to terms with the new breakdown laws. But all I could say is there's a real kind of movement towards speeding up the ball at the breakdown, which has always been quite an area of contention. And no matter what the weather conditions, that's here to stay, no doubt about that. So I think we are going to get a faster game. We are going to get hopefully a more fluid game, and maybe that's not for everyone, but it's from the early signs I saw in New Zealand, it looked pretty good to me.
August 15th, round 14 of the Gallagher Premiership, up and running again. Austin, how will the game look? Will it look different, do you think?
Well, we won't get as wet, hopefully. Let's hope it's quite exciting to watch. I hope there's a breath of fresh air from the players. I think Ben was telling me a while ago that a change in the attitude of the players as well. A few people had thought that a lot of the players had lost some of those old values, maybe coming back a little bit more about cooperation with one another rather than consolidation. But who knows? I mean, at times like this, I like to look back and think about some of the great occasions. I mean, this is the trophy you get for man of the match in the 2001 Heineken final, which is a bit different from the man of the match trophy in the 2002 final, which was a little bit smaller. And I like to compare the difference between the two and think, well, why did they reduce the size of the man of the match trophy a year later when really it probably should have been the other way round? And those are the sort of things that trouble me on a daily basis, Craig.
Yeah, still both considerably smaller than a World Cup, although you wouldn't know that. Now,
they were in fact Lego cups that he was holding up there.
To match his Lego hair.
I was going to say those trophies are shot glasses for me and Ben. I don't know about anything else.
Some few questions in here, lads. This one comes from Jeremy Hughes. Was Bill Beaumont's reappointment what the game needs now? This might be for you, Oz. Or should there have been a change at the top to save the game? Or is the role redundant anyway with regards to what is needed? That's from Jeremy Hughes. World Rugby.
That's to me.
That's to you. World Rugby, Bill Beaumont remains chairman. He was up against Gus Pichot. Of course, Gus Pichot is seen as the kind of modern thinker, the modern man. Bill, kind of more old school, but very popular. It was an interesting battle, one that Bill won, and Jeremy Hughes wants to know, was he the right guy for the job?
Out of the two of them, definitely. I think Pichot's reaction afterwards showed probably why he wasn't the right man for the job. It's a position that needs, particularly in the current climate, a calm head, somebody who's not going to be too disruptive, somebody that's just going to try and bring all parties together, because ultimately that person's got no power, apart from the fact they're chairman of World Rugby and they distribute a huge amount of money. It's run largely by lots of committees. If you look at their articles and if you look at how the World Rugby is set up, there's a lot of committees there that vote on a lot of stuff. And I think that Benny almost hit the nail on the head. This might be the time when World Rugby, through a partner, a financial partner, might be able to bring everybody together in a sort of totalitarian way. I think it's difficult to see how it would work, but I wouldn't be against that. And I think it could be good for the game, rugby as a game, as a spectacle as well. You've got lots of warring factions at the minute, and it needs somebody to be in control. And currently, money is the power.
World Rugby, of course, are a charity themselves, Lawrence, and they don't have as big a say on how all the leagues should be run as people might think they do. They can advise. And you look at even just in the Northern Hemisphere, you got the Pro 14, you got the Gallagher Premiership, you got the Top 14, then you got the EPCO running the Heineken Cup, then you got the internationals. It's just so difficult, isn't it, to find a middle ground between all these people. And I guess this leads to a question from Jason Stacey, who says it's been confirmed today that PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, will have a pivotal role in the Premiership restart. Also, they're involved in the salary cap. I guess he's asking, does that give us an indication of just how tough it is that they have been brought in to help out?
Yeah, just on the Bill Beaumont issue. I mean, obviously, both Bill and Gus Pichot set out their manifesto for re-election, and for Gus, it would have been his election as president of or chairman of World Rugby. I think now that Bill's won, obviously from our point of view, I think it's a great victory for him. But obviously, whether it's the right thing or not depends on whether he's able to deliver against that mandate. I'm not going to sit here and tell you exactly what it was that he proposed, but clearly bringing together this global season was part of the the proposals. So I think time will tell whether Bill is going to be successful over the next 4 years. He's certainly got the backing of the French Federation and the French clubs, and mark my words, they are quite a significant partner. They're hosting the next Rugby World Cup, and they can certainly help to push things through. So I think Bill's a good guy. I think he's got his intentions in the right place, and I'm really looking forward to seeing whether he can bring everyone together, as Ben said, and affect some real change. The other question around PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC, as we all know, there's a lot of change at Premier Rugby. Darren Charles is now effectively the CEO. CVC are a minority stakeholder, a shareholder of Premier Rugby, and I'm sure that the decision to appoint PwC must have been in consultation with CVC, the venture capitalist company or the VC business that own obviously a portion of the private equity business. So, I don't know. Other sports seem to be able to cope with Operation Restart without the need to employ PwC. But in their defence, there's not a lot of people left at Premier Rugby, and maybe they felt there's a need to bring in some outside expertise in order to get us back on track.
And we are almost back on track. Of course, the season should be starting again 15th, 16th of August. And we will have European Rugby 19th, 20th with the final played in October the 17th. Just a reminder if you've just joined us. And don't forget, Joe Marler's in conversation with Alex Payne up next. So do stay with us. And great to have you with us for the weekend. I hope you watch all the different shows coming your way over the next few days. Right, this is about summer rugby, possibly. Been with us for a while. Certainly this summer, it's coming back. Austin, playing rugby in the sunshine, high temperatures, hard track. What's it going to be like? How tough is it? What are your experiences of it?
Well, normally pre-season games out in France, or if Dean Richards was the coach in Northern Ireland, and playing I used to love playing in both conditions, and both really cold and wet, but also warm. Not so much towards April, May time, when the pitches in the olden days had no grass on them and were basically just dust bowls. But you talk about skill levels. I just think it's a mindset when you go out. Even if it's wet, you can still perform these skills. You practice them week in, week out at the training park. And I know what it's like to commentate as well at these games. We've had end of seasons where it's been incredibly hot. And you do get a sense that the game can dip, particularly in some of the finals. The Saracens versus Exeter final, where the Chiefs got off to an unbelievable start and they just expelled a load of energy and then dropped off a little bit. Saracens came back into it and eventually went on to win. I think that sort of gives you an idea of how you'd have to monitor your energy levels and not exhaust yourself too quickly. And it would suit teams more like Saracens who are really able to defensively soak up a lot of attacking plays from the opposition without giving away too much energy. And I think that'll play a big part. Like you said, teams like Bristol may have to modify the way they play. Do they still try and attack from their own 22? If their percentage strike rate in the red zone isn't as good as someone else, should they not be better off concentrating on that? And all of these different stats will come into play a lot more when you are thinking about how fit your players are after a certain long period off.
I think you've just answered Ricky Baku's question. Oz, well done there. So the players have allegedly been training at home. Benny, you've been down the training ground with the Tigers. Who came back the fattest?
Has he?
Who's lied most about home training?
I haven't been there because they're trying to keep it obviously as secure as possible. So unless you needed to be there, you're not welcome. In terms of, it's actually the opposite problem, which I say problem, there's a lot of people, Austin included, that have been calling for the players to get lighter, and thinking that if the game was speeded up, they would need to be faster and lighter. I'm a little bit reticent of that because, the likes of Maro Itoje is a pretty heavy lump and he can get around the field all right. So I don't necessarily think that if the game was a lot quicker, we'd see drastically smaller bodies. But the fact that the players haven't had the same sort of weights facilities to train at home, they haven't had the same nutritional support as soon as they've finished their training session to fill up with protein and the various other supplements, means that huge losses in body weight from some of the players coming back in, because they've obviously been training really hard, but most of it has had to be around the fitness element rather than the strength and power element that they'd be doing in the gymnasium. So we will see over the summer rugby a glimpse of what it could be like if the players were a bit smaller, playing in nice weather. But certainly, I don't think it's who's got fat that's a problem. It's who's struggled to keep the weight on. And obviously, in some of those positions around the front five for scrummaging, that could be a little bit difficult because the pre-season, when they've actually been able to get back, is going to be shorter than a normal pre-season. So they won't be able to get that weight on as quickly. They're having to do the fitness work as well to get their lungs up to capacity. So there will be a difference, and it could be a benefit.
So, Lawrence, before the break,
seems like Ben's missed. You missed. How much muscle mass have you lost, Ben, in the lockdown? You seem to have lost a bit off the old gunnage. Seems to have shrunk down a bit. Are you okay?
Mine are just
are you eating well? Are you eating well?
My arms are the normal length, they're all right.
Normal what? Lawrence, you're looking quite fit, though. Have you been on? You been on the old static bike? Have you?
I've been doing a fair bit of cycling. Yes, but
how many laps of Richmond Park, Law?
I've also been doing a fair bit of recycling as well. I mean, I think the recycling team where I live deserve a big round of applause every Friday, every Monday morning, quite frankly. But yes, no, a bit of exercise. But going back to the rugby, the guys that talked about body shape and summer rugby. The thing that's fascinating me, certainly watching what I've seen in New Zealand for the last couple of weekends, is that there was an element of predictability about certain parts of the game, the way it's evolved over the last couple of years. The one that used to really upset Austin and all of us, quite frankly, was the reset scrums and the amount of time it wasted to reset scrums. And I do feel it'd be fascinating when we get back to rugby in a few weeks' time, certainly mid-August. You'd like to think that there won't be too many reset scrums when we've got grounds like that. And if we can get to that, then that's going to improve the game. The other thing that used to be a bit of a pain for us all was this kind of predictability around box kicking. No one wants to take the art of box kicking and chasing and a contest for the ball in the air out of the game. But we were seeing, north of sort of 30, 40 kicks per team per game. And I think if these new laws can hopefully eradicate some of that, maybe encourage teams to maybe not be quite as gung-ho as Bristol, but to play out of your own half, to have the confidence maybe that the only way of getting out your own half is not just to box kick it up in the air, then I think the game will be a far better spectacle as a result of that. So that's the kind of angle I'm looking at. I'm hopefully not too many reset scrums and less box kicks, and we'll get a better game of rugby.
From what we've seen in New Zealand, though, Benny, the breakdown was a lottery. I mean, it was a joke at times. Ref just pinging constantly. What's changed there? Just remind people watching what they should be looking out for and how the players have to behave differently.
We will be in a better situation for the fact that New Zealand has started before everyone else, because the referees will be watching that. They'll be learning. When they come up with law amendments, law changes, and also changes to how a law is interpreted, then you can do that very cleverly in a meeting. But until you actually put it in front of the players, put it in front of the coaches, let them have some time training, let them have some time actually playing in a game, it takes a while for it to settle down. We see at the beginning of every season when there's a law amendment, almost that box ticking of the referee has to give one early on. And for the first 2 weeks, we see every decision given absolutely clearly. And it almost ruins the game a little bit. But then things settle down people get used to it. The referees are maybe not quite as sharp on it, and also the players learn what the referee will let them get away with them and what they won't. And that's where we need to get to. In terms of what's changed, I think that the big focus for me that we've been crying out for is whether you're offside or not, and the benefit of the doubt isn't there, and that will be a huge thing moving forward. It'll create more space. We won't see defensive lines quite so quickly in people's faces, and that's an area that I think that can certainly speed up the game, because if the attacking team is winning the collision, then we will see quicker ball. As soon as the attacking team's on the front foot, quicker ball's there and available. It's harder to compete at the breakdown. If you're being policed more strictly at the breakdown as well, we will see the ball coming. There will still be a place for a good jackler, but they're going to have to be very honest with how they do it.
So fewer reset scrums, Austin, better, faster tracks, breakdown, bit of a lottery, too risky to spend too long in there. This could be a tri-fest come August, couldn't it?
Hopefully, yeah. I think there's lots of changes afoot, and you just don't know, do you? It's like, what's the French team going to be like? I don't know. They could be amazing, but they could also be rubbish. They've been pretty damn good recently. But I think with the guys coming back and not having any games as such to speak of against opposition prior to it, there will be a lot of rusty skill sets out there. Be difficult to get cohesion between the units on the field. Hopefully the skill levels, I think some of the skill levels in New Zealand have been sensational at times. Some of the blind passes, the understanding of channel running, how people can find space. And I think once, like Benny said, once we get past all the nuances in the laws, then we seem to get to grips with it quite quickly. So yeah, I'm hopeful that it will be really, really exciting to watch. And it will be, even if it's crap, because we're playing again.
Yeah.
This is from Joe Wilson. Is it me, or has Austin just described himself as the perfect next president of World Rugby?
United States.
Perfect. Very similar to the current one.
I'm not sure the salary's big enough for him, though. That's the problem.
Don't take a salary, lol. I only get paid £1. It's the dividends you want, mate.
Craig, I've got a question for you. What's that shirt? What's that shirt behind you?
Oh, I don't like to talk about that, but it is the time I played football with Diego Maradona. I don't like to talk about it so much. Yeah, look, there were 74,000 people in Old Trafford that witnessed it, so enough people saw it, and it was live on TV. They also saw me cough up 2 goals on behalf of the rest of the world against Europe. But let me tell you one thing about that game. So seriously, Maradona's on the team, right? David Ginola's on it, Gianfranco Zola, just the most amazing. Dunga, Desai, Schmeichel's in goals. So Schmeichel rolls the ball out to me, right? I make a little break up the right side. Maradona's free, okay? And I play a little ball into Maradona. I make a break. He passes on to me. And I'm like, that's beautiful. Obviously, I got tackled, lost the ball. So about 10 minutes later, I tried to do the same thing again, and Maradona doesn't pass back. And I heard myself shout the immortal words, for Christ's sake, Diego. When do you get to say that in your life? But it did happen. I was hauled off. I was hauled off at half time. Why? Why did you do that?
I don't know if you saw the Maradona documentary on Channel 4, but when they interviewed him, he had a shirt on the back behind him. He said, "That's when I played with Craig Doyle at Manchester United."
I also fitted his bifolding doors. Don't you forget about that. Before we came into this break, lads, Exeter Chiefs were essentially champions-elect. It's a nice change from a chip on your shoulder there, Oz, to have a ball there. Are
you talking about this? This was the ball that Peyton Manning threw to me when I played in the NFL in a charity game in an all-star match. I caught it, went the length. He signed it and asked if I would keep it. So, if we're just going through memorabilia, it doesn't really matter much to me anyway. So you just...
Actually, what have you got?
Joe Montaigne.
That's a nice shot behind you there, actually, Benny. That's a lovely shot of Jono holding up the World Cup. He is joining Sam Warburton and Brian O'Driscoll and Martin Bayfield tomorrow for a bit of a chat talking about the Lions. But what's your favourite bit of memorabilia on the wall there, Benny?
I I don't know. Yeah, probably that one. I'll tell you what it is. It's this. It's this here. This is a Henry Fraser original that my sister got done for my 40th birthday. So a nice little picture.
I'm not going to ask you, Lawrence. What have you got? What have you got there, Lawrence? You've nothing of interest in the back there, do you? To show us?
No, just a couple of nice bottles of red wine, to be fair. But otherwise, there's no memorabilia. It's out in the man cave.
Isn't it, Lol? Aren't all your colouring in books there as well?
Yeah, no. It's most of your autobiographies, mate. I've coloured them all in already. Don't worry about that.
This is my favourite picture. It's a picture of my last game of rugby with my two eldest daughters. Ellie May finished school today, in theory, 18. Daisy finished her GCSEs today. It tells you a lot about the differences we've had to go through recently as families and communities. And we're going out later to celebrate the fact that they didn't have to do exams and schools all ended.
Tell you what else that picture tells you, Oz. That picture tells you how good that hair treatment you had all those years ago was.
Show us it again.
Get your hair sorted, like me.
I think it's very similar, Ben. You'll find.
Yeah, they managed to keep hold of bits of it.
Yeah, and you obviously picked up the wrong children at the hospital. Clearly,
is that your Strictly Come Dancing ball there in the back? Grab that.
Yeah, do you want to get that? Hold on.
Yeah, grab that.
Oh dear.
Did you win? Did Matt Dawson do that? Did Matt Dawson do better than us?
Dawes came second. This is what you get when you win.
You've made that, haven't you? You've made that yourself.
That's why the D's missing.
You've been out and bought a glitter ball.
It's actually Strictly Come Prancing.
Is that what you get? Is that what you get for? Is that third place? Can I see the one for first place?
He didn't make
no,
it.
This is
the final.
I got this. I did the tour. I did the tour 2 years later, and I won. Mainly because I own a call centre based in Indonesia, and the votes came through that year.
I've got there's a little picture. That's my last game. That's
a nice one.
With yeah. Oh, yeah. You see, I'm smiling because I think we beat you in the final that year, so I'm smiling a little bit better.
Did.
Yeah.
And I remember that game, Lawrence, because I was at Nile Woods Stag Night, absolutely hammered. Yeah,
I can't believe you remember any. Yeah. I don't think you remember anything about that, Craig.
I remember small bits of it.
I think I remember it, lol, because I came around the front of a line out on appeal and got absolutely smashed. Spilled the ball near the line, and you went, "Oops, not again, Benny."
Niall Woods tells me a story. Crow tells me a story about the first time he played against Wasps for London Irish, Lawrence, and he tried to make a bit of a statement, came off the wing and tried to throw a dig in your face, and you picked him up and went, "What are you doing, Crow?" And you just threw him into touch. Lesson learned. Lads, let's wrap it up with a quick view on how this Premiership might finish up. Before the break, Exeter Chiefs were essentially champions-elect. Bit of a break. Things may have shifted a little bit. You know, everyone's going to try and bounce back into form. There might be a bit of a shift. Let's go around the houses. Lawrence, how do you think it's going to finish up?
Yeah, well, I mean, just remind me, we've got Exeter Chiefs at the top, Bristol, who else is up there? Northampton, we're in fourth. Sale up there. I mean, look, there's no doubt that with Saracens, down the bottom of the table and obviously, already relegated, this is Exeter's moment to shine, isn't it? They've won one trophy. They've been unlucky on a couple of occasions that Saracens have been a better team on the day. They're looking very strong in Europe. I still wouldn't rule them out of progressing in that competition because I think they play Northampton in their quarter-final at Sandy Park, and they've really targeted that trophy this season. So, there's no doubt that Exeter Chiefs are alive on two fronts. I think the lads would agree that the way that Exeter play, there seems to be a real pattern to it, and maybe when you've had 3 or 4 months off of rugby, slipping back into that kind of pattern and that style of rugby that Exeter have got maybe might be a little bit easier for them than it is for other sides because they do have a very go-to way of playing. So I think they're going to be there or thereabouts, and I do believe that they've got the nous and the experience to win at least one of the 2 trophies on offer. If not Europe, then I certainly think that they're going to challenge for the Premiership, and maybe Bristol or Sale are the sort of teams that might push them all the way, because Sale seems to have turned things around and are coming strong, and Bristol, you can't rule them out, even though they had a bit of a blip just before lockdown. They've certainly got the firepower to really challenge at the top.
Yeah, just a reminder of the way it stands. Exeter top 45 points, then Sale on 40, Bristol 38, Northampton 35, Wasps 33, Bath on 30, Harlequins 28, London Irish 28, and then you've got Gloucester, Worcester, Leicester and Saracens. Interesting, the South Africans are all back up in Sale. No surprise, Steve Diamond had the Sale guys back training as soon as possible. We get to see finally Lou De Jager in full action in the Premiership as well, Benny. It's pretty exciting what Sale are doing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And, as we sort of come out of this and look to the future, they are certainly a team that are trying to cement themselves firmly at the top of the table. They're looking at trying to shift from the AJ Bell Stadium to a new purpose-built stadium facility and really grow the sport in the Northwest. So it's great. Austin and myself both come from the Northwest. It's great that a rugby team is really investing up there and trying to grow in what is a rugby league heartland and football heartland. I think Steve Diamond's done a great job. The South African element, particularly under Faf de Klerk, who came in, although they've had South Africans before, but has really galvanised and been someone that they can build a team around. I think he's been their best recruitment agent of the last couple of years, of selling the club and selling Manchester to all those players that have come up, and they've always had that young element of players, homegrown players. They've added some Stardust in, but Stardust that all get on very well because they're similar, from a similar culture, and I think they are going to become one of the real forces in Premiership rugby over the next couple of years. Whether that'll be this year or not, Exeter obviously very, very strong, though they will be concentrating on Europe if they can kick on with that campaign. And then obviously, as Lol said, Bristol are a team that, with the finance and what they've built already, will be one of the really strong teams over the next few years. But I think it's Exeter's to lose. But certainly I think Sale will be the people that push them the hardest.
Yeah, Austin, it could be a really exciting finish to the season. Top 6 as well, a real battle there. And Gloucester going through the wars at the moment as well. Of course, a change in management there. So, it's seen a bit of a reshuffle. It's nice to see the likes of Bristol up in the top 4. It's nice to see Sale up there, isn't it?
Yeah, but I'm a bit upset, right, that we haven't mentioned Wasps, because I think you'll find that Wasps are the best team in the league, and they always have been. And in the last 3 games, they scored over 160 points, albeit in training. But they're still the best team in the league, and will win the they will win the trophy again this year, and I can't wait for it.
There you have it, Jack Nicholson doing Michael Caine.
Yeah, I guess you gave up on Leicester when they were 11th in the table early on this season, Austin. Even your biased commentary couldn't help them at all, could they? Really? So you sort of given up on them.
I gave up on Leicester when I realised. I gave up on Leicester when I realised that one of the board members was completely conflicted.
Anyway,
COVID's been good, hasn't it? I've loved the lockdown. Hey, anyone else got as completely loopy as me?
No.
No.
No one looks as insane. Okay. And we'll finish. That leads us nicely into Joe Wilson's final comment. Absolutely brilliant banter and so good. Austin Healey winning as the only member of the panel that could provide a 1-to-1 scale if he was an action figure. On that, we say thank you, Austin. We say thank you to Ben Kay and Lawrence, from all of us, all your old pals. Congratulations to you and all the guys for getting this up and running, because the temptation, I'm sure, was to just knock it on the head and leave it for a year. And you're doing a great service, not only to your charity, but also to rugby, to get it up and running, and a lovely bit of light relief for everyone out there. So well done, you guys.
Just a quick point, Craig. Just a quick point, Craig. We would have been 5 days into the slam now. which would have meant somewhere in the region of 550 miles of cycling, and for Lawrence, 5 nights out. So just his ability to still be able to speak at this stage, I think, is a huge, amazing event. Because had we have been, I think we would have been in Seville at this stage on the Cycle Slam, which also would have been a relatively quiet night. But I'm missing the slam, missing you guys, and hopefully we can all get back together soon to cut Craig's hair.
Well, I'm looking.
I've just had an update. Apparently the season's not starting till December, so we don't need to see you. It's all right, don't worry.
I'm actually looking forward to. I'm actually looking forward to getting us back together, not just for the rugby, but so we can have a pint at some point. You know, we were due to be at the European Cup final in the end of May, and with our good pal Brian O'Driscoll, who likes a pint or two.
He actually only likes two. After that, he falls down. Lads, brilliant. Really good to see him. We're going to see you in action on BT Sport, of course, in that weekend in August. 14th, 15th and 16th. The Gallagher Premiership will be back in action on your TV screens, and hopefully some crowds can get there too. Lawrence, you have a busy weekend ahead of you. Boys, you just take it easy. Austin, the hair, it's magnificent. If you do want to donate, and please do, it's a really good cause. Dallaglio Rugby Works. A little graphic's going to pop up here and it'll tell you exactly how to do that. Just call 70460 to donate £10 to the Rugby Works programme. A really, really good cause. You can Google a bit further and find out more about it. But all of us have seen the benefits of it, and it's a fabulous charity, and it's great they're giving it a belt during this crisis. So please do get involved. Last seen, Joe Marler was on his bed in a bandana. I'm not sure if he's wearing anything else, but he will be in conversation with Alex Payne, who I believe likes to dress the exact same way. They're coming your way on the Virtual Rugby Show very soon indeed. But Oz, Benny and Lawrence, take care of yourselves, and everyone at home, have a great weekend and stay tuned. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
Just a reminder that this event is fundraising for Dallaglio Rugby Works. If you would like to donate, text RUGBY to 70460 to donate £10. Text costs £10 plus one standard rate message.